It's time for another installment of Flashpoint. This week, morning anchor Kirstin O'Connor sits down with Goodwill Industries of Central Florida on how the nonprofit is helping people with disabilities find work.
Good morning, I'm Kirstin O'Connor. Across the United States, millions of people with disabilities face obstacles in the workforce, and here in Central Florida, Goodwill is getting results and providing employees with the proper tools to excel at work. And joining us this morning, we have Linda Rimmer, Vice President and Vocational and Community Services at Goodwill Industries here in Central Florida. Thank you so much for being with us for Flashpoint.
Thank you for asking us to come.
We're
very happy to be here.
Yeah, this is a great topic to get started today. We want to talk about finding that employment. And I know it's difficult for people, no matter who you are, but how difficult is it for someone with a disability?
It can be very difficult. Sometimes it happens easily, depending on the disabling condition and the attitude of the person and their connectivity with possible jobs in the community and the skills that they have. But it can also be very, very difficult and very frustrating for the person who's trying to find a job.
I can imagine. So what's the unemployment rate like for workers with disabilities?
For workers with disabilities, it's about triple the normal rate. So the normal rate right now is about 4.7%, and they are between 12 and 13%.
Yeah, so it's a significant,
very significant,
part of our population. According to this U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics report that was just released, about 80% of people with disabilities are not in the workforce. Why is this? Can you give us sort of an idea of what the challenges are?
The challenges are all along the pathway as they're growing up. If it's a disability that they are born with or acquire as a child, then they're dealing with it for a long period of time before they can even get to the point that they can get a job and get some skills so that they can work. And other people, are not disabled as children, acquire a disability as they get older, and then they have to deal with that. And that can be very difficult. And then we have employers who have a fear of bringing people with disabilities into the workplace. They're just not sure how to deal with that. And they're not sure how to communicate with the people.
And so what can employers do to kind of help and reach out if they aren't afraid, let's say?
If they aren't afraid, all they need to do is kind of open their doors and allow people with disabilities to put in applications and to have a fair mindset when they actually interview them. Because, having a disability does not at all mean that you cannot work. It may mean, depending on the disability, that there are certain things that you can't do any longer in the workplace or that you won't be doing in the workplace. But there are so many things that they can do, and especially in today's world of technology, because more and more technology is being utilized to help people with disabilities acquire more skills.
Wonderful. And we're going to continue talking with you in just a short while. Stay with us and we will find out more about how people with disabilities are getting results with Goodwill. Welcome back to Flashpoint. Today we are talking with Linda Rimmer, Vice President of Vocational and Community Services at Goodwill Industries of Central Florida. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you.
So we want to continue our talk here about people with disabilities, yes, and how you're helping find them jobs. What are some of the tools and resources that Goodwill provides?
Well, Goodwill provides a lot of resources as far as educational types of things and vocational skills, and really getting ready to just go to work. Because sometimes people with persons with disabilities have not done that prior, and they're just not sure how to wrap it all together in their life so that they can do that on a daily basis. And there are, depending on the disability, there are some people with disabilities who may need part-time jobs. Because perhaps 40 hours a week, depending on the disability, might be a little difficult for them. For others, you may never even know who has a disability around you because it just doesn't show at all. They are perfectly comfortable with their disability. They know how to work around it. They are doing something that is within their skill levels. And look at Franklin Roosevelt. It was the longest president of the United States ever.
Right.
It had an extreme disability,
yeah,
and it became more and more so as he became older. But it did not stop him.
No.
And there's no need for it to stop many other people with disabilities. One of the really major things that a person with a disability or a family who has a child with a disability needs to become aware of. Two things. If their child is still in school, they want to look at special education perhaps, if that is needed, so that they can get an educational plan together for their child as early as possible during the schooling area, if they need that. Other people with disabilities don't need that at all. They're going to go on to college and graduate school and everything else. And then the other thing they really need to know about is that there is a division of vocational rehabilitation. It is a state agency. They can find it under state government in their phone book or on their computer. And federal funds come down to every state division of vocational rehabilitation to assist people with disabilities become employed. So many of the people that we have at Goodwill with disabilities have come to us through the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, through the Division of Blind Services, another state agency that also gets federal funding to assist people as adults to find employment, and even VA.
Okay, so
a lot of veterans now too.
That sounds like the first step is just figuring out how to find a place that will help you. What are some of the other steps?
The other steps then are, once they get into that realm, after they graduate from high school, they might need some more assistance. And so deciding on what that vocational skill is best meant for that person to be. So you can do what's called a vocational assessment, which has everything from paper and pencil tests to diagnostic tests, etc., so that you know what they like to do then, what they're really drawn to, and also what their capabilities are. And the capabilities may show that they can go as high as they want to go in that field. Disability isn't going to hold them back at all. They can persevere. Others may discover that they can be in that same field, but perhaps not doing exactly what they wanted to do. For instance, if they wanted to be an airline pilot, but the assessment showed that they didn't have the skills for that, they can still be in the airline industry, perhaps doing something else. So it still might welcome their skill set, but just perhaps at a different level. So there are just so many things. There are all the different plethora of things out there and jobs for people with disabilities to do, just as there are for people who don't feel they have a disability. And truly, if we all searched our souls long enough and hard enough, we probably all have some disability somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that self-assessment helps them kind of determine where they can go, what pathway to go. How many people have you helped with Goodwill placing them into these jobs?
Well, we've worked with over 3,000 in this past year, because even though not all 3,000 of those were sent to us by the Division of Voc Rehab or Blind Services or the VA, a lot of them come to our Job Connection Centers, because Goodwill Industries of Central Florida has 9 Job Connection Centers throughout the 6 counties that we serve. And those are free, walk in, and get help finding a job places.
And we're talking thousands of our local residents, people right here who can get help. I love hearing that number.
Oh, well, actually last year, now this isn't just people with disabilities, these are all the people who come to us. We served over 42,000 people in our 6 counties last year, and we helped over 7,500 get into jobs.
Incredible.
It really is, and it's makes you love what you're doing.
I bet, yes. Yeah. I can totally see that. So what are some of the local businesses that are offering employment for people with disabilities?
Very large businesses in our area who really have a community feel to them are very good about helping with people even with severe disabilities, such as Publix, Chick-fil-A. Lots of kind of grassroots types of organizations really play a part in all of that. But many times that's for some people who perhaps have developmental disabilities that are precluding their doing some other things. Truly, every business and every company in this area can hire persons with disabilities, because it depends on what that disabling condition is.
And so they just need to understand what they can put in front of that person and what they will be able to help the business do and how they can help the business grow. I love that. You can implement all of these people in any of our businesses. Yes.
The goal is to find what's the best niche for them, that they will be happy in, that they will flourish in, and that hopefully there are other steps they can go through to get into higher positions in that same industry.
And so can business owners themselves come to Goodwill and say, I would like to be involved in this? What types of training can I get to help
We
more
would
people?
love for them to come to us and ask that question, because we can tell them so much about why not to have a fear of hiring persons with disabilities, and how to welcome them, and how to train them, and to know that they are going to have perhaps a lifelong employee. We at Goodwill Industries of Central Florida, we also hire a lot of persons with disabilities, various disabling conditions. And some of the people that we have hired have been with us for, up to 35, 40 years.
Yeah.
Because they have found their niche, they're happy, it suits their skill levels, it works, and so there's so much for employers to learn about that.
Can you think of a specific person or any success story that comes to mind?
Oh my, we have so many success stories. For instance, we recently had a gentleman come to us, was referred from the Division of Blind Services, and he actually had been a professional basketball player, and had even played internationally. But you can have all those kinds of skills and still have a disability. And his particular disability was chronic depression. And because of the depression, he actually attempted suicide and shot himself in the head. He lived, but he had lost all of his vision from that incident. And still, of course, had to get past the depression and go forth with life and not be able to do the things he had been so skilled at prior.
Right.
And he was sent to us at one point in time in his rehabilitation. And we had him at one of our job connection centers with a specialized computer system so that he could learn to do things on the computer that he did not need his vision for, and to learn that he had that capability of doing that and interacting with people, and he was just miraculous. And his whole attitude is now so different. He actually is an inspirational speaker now.
Wow. So it's changed his life in more ways than just his job. Yeah.
He had to go out to see the core of him was still there.
Right. Absolutely.
And probably a more healthy core than he had had when he was doing so well as a basketball player, because he had a disabling condition that he hadn't really faced.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What an inspiring story. I love hearing those success stories from Goodwill. So Linda, tell us how people can learn more about Goodwill services and how they can help.
Well, one of the first things they can do if they have a computer or if they have access to a computer is to go on the web. And we are on the web at www.goodwillcfl.org, and they'll get a plethora of information about us on that. They also can call, and the phone number is on the website, or they can just call 407-857-0659 and ask for vocational and community services, and we can give them a lot of information. We would also be happy to have them come and to our offices and talk with us. We try to be part of the solution, not part of the problem, and so we want to help them get to the services that they need the most, that will help them the most.
Wonderful. And we want to thank you so much, Linda Riber with Goodwill Central Florida, for joining us for Flashpoint today. We appreciate it, and we will be back with more news and weather in just a few minutes.